So some interesting developments have popped up in relation to even more Transformer movies in the future. I mean, we have Rise of the Beast literally just a couple of weeks away, our big Beast Wars related movie in June. And then, of course, next year we have the Transformers 1 animated CG movie that we're going to be expecting next year. But it seems that there's even more stuff in talks and development. This comes courtesy of Daniel Richman, a notable news source for what's going on in the movie industry and little things that are talking. And supposedly, Transformers executive producer, the guy behind literally all of the live action movies since the beginning in 2007, Lorenzo de Bonaventura, he hinted at the possibility that they're in talks for a Transformers G.I. Joe crossover movie. Now, this is something you could chew and digest in many different ways, because the G.I. Joe franchise has had a difficult time finding its footing in cinema. I mean, let's be honest, it's been having a difficult time finding its cinema all the way back since even the 80s. But when they tried to do those original movies, they couldn't find their place. They brought in The Rock, and I always say, if you don't make good money with The Rock, and, sure, recently you could talk about Shazam and everything's been going on with that, but especially back then, if you didn't make movie with The Rock, there's probably something wrong with your franchise more than anything else. And after that, they kind of regathered themselves, tried to figure things out, and then did the Snake Eyes movie, and that didn't do well. And I've always felt that it has nothing to do with the movies being bad, because people would always tell me, well, they're not good movies. Yeah, but you got to get people in the theater first. Before people realize a movie is bad, they have to go see it first. And, when your day ones are not looking good, or when your preview day ones are not looking good, it means that no one cared. No one's interested in this brand. And I think it's probably Hasbro going, what do we have to do with G.I. Joe in order for people to be invested? And I've talked about this in our live streams many times in the past on the podcast, how, the question comes up, how do you fix G.I. Joe? What do you do with G.I. Joe? It's a very tough brand to evolve into the modern era. It's fighting against terrorists, real American hero, something that really doesn't resonate in 2023 in the modern era. It's like bringing Dick Tracy to today, or Flash Gordon. There's just some brands that were ridiculously successful in their original eras, but when you bring them today, they kind of fall flat because there's just so many other things. And this goes into the whole deeper discussion of, eyeballs are just everywhere now, and it's hard to get those eyeballs on your product, even if they were popular at one point, and you have to really reinvent yourself. This goes all the way back to something like Beast Wars, where Transformers had to really reinvent itself drastically in order to get those eyeballs, because at that point, 9 years of G1 and 2 years of G2 just didn't cut it, and G2 pretty much was G1 rehashed. Combined with the fact that, another thing too that I feel will be kind of difficult to get over is, if we have a Transformers G.I. Joe live action movie, I feel, how different is it really going to be than what we got with the 2007 original Michael Bay movie? I mean, I've said it many times in the past that I've always felt that if you wanted a G.I. Joe live action Transformers movie, we kind of already got it with the 2007 Michael Bay movie. I mean, Captain Lennox pretty much was Duke. Epps was pretty much Roadblock. Figueroa, for his short time on the screen, might as well be your tunnel rat. It's something where there was that army, versus the Transformers with the Autobots working together kind of thing. All that was missing was Cobra, pretty much. So it's something where I don't know. And later on, we would get Transformer movies where you had the human elements working with the Decepticons and stuff. Obviously not in a larger, more bombastic, cartoony Cobra element, but it's something where even if you brought in G.I. Joe into the live action movies, how much of that would put eyeballs on the G.I. Joe brand? G.I. Joe, it's kind of one of these things. It's a brand that everyone knows exists, but maybe not everyone cares about in order to engage with it. I love G.I. Joe personally, but I was an 80s kid. I grew up on that. But I am very quick to admit and recognize that 90s kids that grew up in the 2000s, which make up now the 25 to 35 demographic of spending power, don't care. They didn't grow up on that. Yes, there was G.I. Joe product in the 90s and the 2000s, but it wasn't taking away the attention from the Pokemons, from the Power Rangers, and later on from, let's say, Yu-Gi-Oh! And going into Minecraft, and the video games just taking away all the eyeballs from the toy aisle at that point. So you have to kind of really go, how are we going to make this work? My fear is it's just going to be a retread of what we got in the 2007 movie with now a Cobra element attached to it. And with G.I. Joe being attached to the name, dare I say, it might make people actually take a step back and not want to engage with this movie. Where if it was a standalone Transformers movie, maybe it would be. And again, from Hasbro's perspective, their logic is, well, Transformers does well. If we put G.I. Joe with it, people will come in and then maybe they'll like G.I. Joe by proxy. Where I feel that maybe even G.I. Joe might scare away from people from wanting to go see it because they might be worried that, and this has always been a worry with Transformer live action movies, too much human element. You put G.I. Joe in this, now how much of it is a Transformer movie? You got to talk about those Cobra characters, human element. You got to talk about those G.I. Joe characters, human element. Now you've taken even away more from it when already Transformer movies that the marquee is Transformer movies, the human element is too strong. So it's going to be a tough road. If this is legitimate, if this is something that truly is in development and they're talking about it, and it's something they want to do with G.I. Joe because they're really trying to figure out what to do with G.I. Joe, it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough one to get over. So I'm just really curious how they're going to go about that because it's going to be a tough one. I can't stop repeating myself, but I want G.I. Joe to be successful, but at the same time, I understand the current market and the current world we live in, and people just don't care, unfortunately. It's a sad truth. Speaking of which, we'll get into some other movie-related talk. So people have been contacting me that wondering why I haven't covered this, but there has been tons of extra footage, trailers, short clips, all kinds of stuff of Rise of the Beast. I've been avoiding most of it, honestly, because I feel like if you took all of those clips from all those different regions, from all those different websites and everything, you could probably put together probably 50% of the movie at this point. So I'm trying to avoid most of it, unless there's something really notable. I'm trying to avoid most of it because I kind of want to go into this movie and see some new footage of surprise. So I'm not going to be covering most of that. I mean, there was the big, other monkey talk that I don't want to get too much into. I'll probably save it for the live stream because people can then choose to, not listen to that if they want to, where my weekly segments, everyone tunes into those regardless of it. So I try to avoid being spoilery with that stuff. So that's it more or less with that. I just wanted to kind of cover that quickly. Another thing too, we also found out what is going to be the title song for Rise of the Beasts. Every movie has had some kind of title song. Usually it's used at the end of the movie, kind of the thing that rolls just before the credits hit. I think, Linkin Park's What I've Done with the 2007 movie and New Divide again with Linkin Park with Revenge of the Fallen. People always parody that and do stuff with it. But now we know what it's going to be for Rise of the Beast, and it's going the similar path to what they did with Bumblebee, where Bumblebee, they took one of their actors and then also used them for their title song and for their end credit song. Haley Steinfeld, who was the main female character in the Bumblebee movie, her song Back to Life was the end credit, featured song. And what they're doing here is because Toby, it's hard to say his name, Toby Ingwe, I believe it's pronounced. I apologize if I said that incorrectly. Toby Ingwe, he did the title songs for the Black Panther movies, and he's going to be featured as a character in Rise of the Beast. Here's the character Reek, and his song On My Soul is going to be the featured title movie in this. I think it also features Nas, which is something a guy I'm familiar with from high school and everything back in the 90s and early 2000s. So they're going to be the featured song. I listened to it quickly. I didn't really have much time to really absorb it and listen to it multiple times, but it's your typical rap standard fare with a little bit of hip hop in the background, features Jacob Black in the background too. So it is what it is. Let's be real. Who really is paying attention to that kind of stuff after the credits? It's just kind of there. Maybe when you're waiting for the after credit, spoiler or something, but it is what it is. So that's also going to be there. And the last thing I want to cover also is if you are a individual that lives in the Northeast of the United States and you go to Cinemark movie theaters. Cinemark movie theaters are predominantly in the north, states like New York, Vermont, Ohio, New Hampshire. They're going to be doing a special promotion where you could get a limited edition Transformers Rise of the Beast popcorn canister shaped like Optimus Prime's head, that when you open the head, your popcorn's in there. When you close the head, the eyes of the canister glow with LED lights and everything. It's pretty crazy. So Cinemark is going to have those exclusively at their locations as a, choice for your popcorn holder. I feel like this is done just in Cinemark with the Northeast because that's where Hasbro and their head office in Providence, Rhode Island is in the Northeast. And of course, even Kenner, where Beast Wars originated from in Cincinnati, Ohio, that's also where Cinemark kind of has all their theaters. I mean, obviously, Rhode Island is a very small area, especially Providence, and is not very bumpin', I guess is the best way to put it. So there is no Cinemark in their area, but if you go a little north to New Hampshire, there's a Cinemark location there for people that are in that area. So, I mean, I think that's why they kind of chose it, to have like the fancy popcorn box, because it's, right in the middle of the area of where Transformers was born in a short way. New York with Marvel, of course, even if you want to go deeper into that with the comics and stuff, and Sunbow Entertainment and the development of those characters. So very interesting stuff. So if you want to get an Optimus Prime popcorn head, that's where you got to go. Pretty cool. I kind of dig it. It's kind of cool. So that's it, more or less, guys, with the news related to Transformers Rise of the Beast and everything like that. Again, the G.I. Joe thing, I don't know. Let me know what you think about that. How could that work? It's something where it's like, even me, if you dropped me in the Hasbro and the development room with, let's say, Paramount, it's like, how do we do G.I. Joe proper in 2023? It's something where you'd have to literally reinvent the brand and, dare I say, almost not use the name. Again, reminder, guys, back in the 90s, it wasn't Transformers Beast Wars. It was Beast Wars, and then written under it in small, Transformers. You had to change the name. You had to change the audience. You had to make people realize that something is new and different. And I think that's probably the best way to save G.I. Joe in a lot of ways. And maybe a G.I. Joe Transformer crossover is not the way to go. Let me know what you think, guys, and we'll talk again real soon here on the Transformer Slag podcast. Tomorrow we have the live stream, Saturday night Chill Fest at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So be sure to like, comment, and subscribe so you get that notification, ring the bell and everything. And on Saturday, we'll be going live at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard, and we'll be talking more Transformers, covering the rest of the news, taking questions from the fans, and everything like that. Take care, and we'll talk again real soon.